We say Grand Marshal!
They say Court Martial!
We say Grand Marshal!
They say Court Martial!
We say Grand Marshal!
And now let's bring up Sue Englander, Executive Board Member of the Harvey Milk LGBT Club, Democratic Club. I always forget that I'm a Queen, so I always forget the Democratic.
It's all right, a lot of us aren't Democrats either, Tommy. So, but at any rate, it's great to know that there is such heartfelt support out there for Bradley Manning. And basically, we are not a monolithic movement. The LGBT movement is going to have its differences. LGBT members of the military are going to have their differences. And for those of us who are anti-war, for those of us who are non-violent, for those of us who do not support the military-industrial complex, Bradley Manning is our hero. We think the Pride Committee needs to listen up because Bradley Manning is a hero, period. And that what he did crosses the boundaries of all kinds of people. When he did this, he stood up for working people who are on the firing lines. When he did this, he stood up for the LGBT members of the military, who, as many of the speakers have said today, are still being harassed, assaulted, insulted, and generally not allowed to serve their country and do what they think is right. So this is baloney. You know, if you basically want to support LGBT in the military, why don't you support Bradley Manning? Why don't you support the average soldier who is doing his or her best to uphold what they think is right? I'm going to make this very brief because I know we all have very similar feelings, but I just want you to know that the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club is so proud that, first of all, we are going to be able to transform this year's Pride Parade into a pro-Bradley Manning parade. And so proud that Daniel Ellsberg will be marching with us. And so proud that so many of you are here today. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we have Stephanie Tang from an organization that we've all seen at every anti-war march we've been to in the last, how many years has it been since Afghanistan started? Too many years. But Stephanie Tang from World Can't Wait.
Thank you, Tommy. Bill bit my whole speech, so I'm just going to make a couple of quick points. I just came from a vigil for the Guantanamo hunger strikers. This is day 83. Thank you, Bradley Manning, for the Guantanamo files. Thank you, Bradley. We've been out in the streets for years trying to stop these illegal, immoral, illegitimate wars in the Middle East and North Africa and Asia. And we want to say, without people like Bradley Manning, wouldn't you give up hope on ever changing this world?
Yes. That's right.
But there are Bradley Mannings, and they don't come along too often, and they are very precious. I just want to say, this incident over the Pride Parade is so huge in the world, not just here, because what is being thrown down is a dividing line. And when the Pride Committee says they won't tolerate a hint of support for Bradley Manning, what are they asking you to tolerate?
Right.
1 million dead in Iraq, 4 million refugees. How many thousands dead by the drone strike? I'm not tolerating that, and I know you don't want to either. Everybody here already feels so strongly, so similar. Let's talk about a couple of new things we can do between now and Pride so that that parade shines with the image of Bradley Manning, and people around the world know that we are standing on the right side of that dividing line. And wherever so-called community leaders or anybody else, all the way up to the President of the United States, who is a war criminal himself, wherever they want to stand, we're not going with them.
Yeah.
One thing you can do, give me your email before you leave, and I'll hook you up to get your own copy of Collateral Murder. This is the footage that shows the Apache helicopter attack that murdered innocent Iraqi civilians.
Without Bradley Manning, the world would not have seen these images. We have gone out and shown it, guerrilla showings on the street. You can show it to 100 people that you know between now and the parade and bring them out with you. I'm going to stand over here. You can bring me a piece of paper with your email. I promise you'll get this DVD. The second thing I want to do is to say that Bradley stands for something that we all have to carry forward now and forever, including in that parade. He stands for the principle that American lives are not more important than the lives of other people. And if your government doesn't recognize that, you have a responsibility and an obligation and the honor of standing up to say, that's not me. Amen. So I'm going to teach you a chant. We chanted it last year in the parade. Maybe we can get twice as many people, 3 times as many people, but when we're out there in the streets, this is how it goes. It's a call and response. 1, we are the people. 2, a little bit louder. 3, we want freedom. 4, Bradley Manning. 1,
We are the people.
2,
A little bit louder.
3,
We want freedom for
Bradley Manning. 1,
We are the people.
2, a little bit louder. 3, we want freedom for Bradley Manning. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, and now we have another Grand Marshal, former Grand Marshal from the parade, and a kick-ass community activist, Gary, Virginia.
For those who don't know me, I've lived here since 1987. I'm openly gay. I'm a 25-year HIV/AIDS survivor, a community builder, fundraiser, and activist. And I had one of the greatest honors of my life at age 53 last year when the Electoral College of former Grand Marshals made nominations. The nominations went out on a ballot to all the former Grand Marshals, and I was announced that I was the Grand Marshal, Community Grand Marshal elected by the Electoral College. That same process was used this year. It's an anonymous nomination process. It's an anonymous vote. But you heard today that former Grand Marshal Joey Kay nominated Bradley Manning, and I'm here to tell you I voted for Bradley Manning. I am calling on the new Executive Director, Earl Plant, and Lisa Williams, the Pride Director, to meet with me and explain exactly what the process is to elect a Grand Marshal. Yes. And to explain with transparency what the votes were. Yes. If you had a problem with any nominee, you should have spoken up before you put the ballot out for all of us to vote on. Yes. For your organization to send out a media release and have Bradley Manning pictured with his biography next to all the other people you announced, and then to backtrack and say, oh, we're sorry, we had an audit, we made a mistake, that is unacceptable. There is much more going on to this than meets the eye, and we demand to know. For Lisa to say there were only 15 votes, well, how many votes were cast? Tell us. If he isn't the Electoral College Grand Marshal, who is? There were 3 other nominees. For you to say that we have a systemic problem in how we vote for Grand Marshals through the Electoral College really diminishes the honor I received last year when the same process was used, and every other Electoral College Grand Marshal that ever had that day in San Francisco on Pride Weekend. Not only that, but your lack of transparency and not telling us who voted that all of this stuff was going on, your credibility for San Francisco Pride and San Francisco's gay community at large has diminished all of us. All of our credibility is diminished. I'm the co-founder of the Pride Brunch, honoring the Grand Marshals, that raises money for Positive Resource Center and AIDS Agency. Last year we had 300 guests and raised $40,000 net. And this is volunteered by myself and my co-founder and co-producer, Donna Sachet. And we honor the Grand Marshals. So when you do something like this, if you put all of us under scrutiny, it makes it harder for us to go out and get people who are going to be sponsors, to get auction items, to get people to buy the tickets. If there's a protest in front of the Hotel Whitcomb, if there's any kind of violence that happens, it's all on your back, Pride. You brought this on. As the producer, co-producer of that event, I can tell you, if you don't make right by all of this, he will still be honored in the parade, thanks to all of you here today. We're going to make this happen. And I'm running the show with the Pride Brunch, and I'll make damn sure Bradley Manning's mentioned and honored. In closing, he is one of America's greatest heroes, and the longer time goes on, it will be recognized. So please be proud. I find most people don't even understand what Bradley Manning did. There's a lot of ignorance out there. It's easy to label somebody by one word that the government or the corporate media want you to say. But do a little bit of work. Find that paragraph that lists the truth and educate people, including our opposition protesters who were here today, no matter where they come from. This is a grand opportunity to educate people and never give up the fight. This is one of the best grand marshals we're ever going to have in San Francisco. Thank you.
We say Grand Marshal!
They say Court Marshal!
We say Grand Marshal!
Is Steve still here? Is Steve from the gay here?